Director Erik Bloomquist is back with another horror movie called Self-Help, and we're going to review it, so let's go. Self-Help stars Landry Bender, Jake Weber, Erik Bloomquist, Madison Lentz, and is directed by Erik Bloomquist.
You know, I've never killed anyone before.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another 2025 review. We're going to review Self-Help by Erik Bloomquist. You might remember him from Founders Day. He directed Founders Day a couple years ago. He's had a couple other movies in the past. I'm trying to remember what the camp movie that he did was, which I reviewed. I've reviewed all of Erik's movies, and I stated this in the Founders Day review that I definitely think Erik is developing a certain style. Like, when I just see the trailer for an Erik Bloomquist movie, I'm like, oh, that's Erik Bloomquist. He just has a certain stamp about his movies, and I think that's a really, really good thing. And I think that stamp is that his movies, they seem to be fun. They're just really fun, quirky characters. There's always WTF moments in his movies to really make you sit up in your chair. This movie is no exception. And he likes to tackle original ideas, which is cool in this day and age. So let's dive into Self-Help. Let's give you a quick plot synopsis. Our main characters here are Olivia and Sophie. Olivia is sort of the main character, but her and Sophie are like best friends. At the beginning of the movie, you see Olivia at a younger age, and she sees something that kind of traumatizes her. I'll just say the incident involves her mother without going into any spoilers. It does involve a Chuck E. Cheese-like establishment as well, which is kind of funny. But then we fast forward to the present day. She's best friends with her friend Sophie. And Sophie kind of encourages her to rekindle that relationship with her mother. They go on this road trip to visit her mother's house. And then they end up in a cultish environment. Yeah, that's right. This is a cultish horror movie. The leader of the cult is Curtis Clark, played by Jake Weber. Jake Weber, who sounds almost exactly like Liam Neeson, but I recognized him immediately, but I couldn't, place where I'd seen him from. I think we all have that moment with certain actors. And sure enough, he's in the Dawn of the Dead remake, as well as other movies. But that's the movie that I definitely remembered him from, Dawn of the Dead, which is a great freaking remake. One of the best remakes out there. Let me just say this. These movies that are like independent, right? And if they're lucky enough to get a what you would call like an established actor, that's what Jake Weber is in this. He is the Donald Pleasance of this movie, make no mistake. That's not to take anything away from the other actors. I think this is a strong ensemble cast here. There's no bad acting in this movie whatsoever. And I do see some promising young faces in Landry Bender and Madison Lentz. Now, this movie definitely leans heavily on like cultish type themes, but it's also with a good mixture of, psychotherapy. I don't know if that's the correct word for it, but there's a therapeutic nature to this movie, especially involving Olivia's relationship with her mother. Her mother is Rebecca, played by Amy Hargreaves. I think Amy might have been in Founders Day. She looks very, very familiar. I'll have to go back and look. But she has a relationship with Curtis, and you can definitely sense some manipulation going on. That's the thing about these movies where you have a small, almost like a tribe in a cult, and the leader, kind of like David Koresh, right, is very charismatic in their approach. They're almost never aggressive. And Curtis's method here is giving the cult member, the power, and denouncing that it actually being a cult, because you can see how some people, they're easily influenced, right? All they need is that little push, that little nudge. They've had some trauma in their past, and so these leaders, they take them under their wing, and they let them sort of think they're leading the way, but we all know that he's pulling the strings, and that's what Curtis does. I think you need a really strong actor to be able to play this type of character, and I think Jake Weber does a fantastic job in this movie doing that. He's able to ride that line where he's very gentle in his nature, but you don't dare trust him whatsoever. And I got to give mad props to Landry Bender, who really has to handle a lot of the emotional weight in terms of acting throughout this movie. She's the trauma victim, and her mother is very confused. And so when you're trying to reach your mother who you have lost a relationship with, And the mother's not really all there. You know, she doesn't have like a backbone. Her life is being controlled by this other guy. So as a daughter, how are you supposed to deal with that, right? One thing I do like about this movie too is I do think there's a special relationship between mothers and daughters, like there is with daughters and fathers, right? I have a very special relationship with my daughter and my son, but they're different. And I think this movie kind of highlights that as well. And I think that the scenes that I enjoyed the most about this movie are those conversations between Olivia and Rebecca, her mother. You know, I really felt for Olivia, who is constantly confused throughout this movie, rightfully so, because the viewer is confused throughout this movie. Like, we don't even know who to trust. Yeah, we don't trust the cult leader, of course, but you're not so sure about the mother. She's not necessarily a bad guy or anything. And I think when daughters are watching this movie, I think they're going to relate to this, even if they have a good relationship with their mother. You know, when you live 18 years with a person, you're going to have a little bit of push and pull, and that's what I liked about this movie. It's kind of cool. Now, if you're going into this movie looking for a straight up blood and guts type horror movie, there's some blood here, and there are a couple of scenes that are kind of shocking in nature, but I don't think this is that type of movie. I think this is much more character-based, and it leans lightly on horror. Like, don't get me wrong, there's definitely some blood in this movie for sure. I think if you've seen Erik Bloomquist's other movies, this sort of falls in line, you know, violence-wise, which I like. I think this is fine. I'll just put it this way. When I came out of the movie, I wasn't saying to myself, damn, I wish there was more blood. But I will say this. If I got to give it a con, I will say this. There were times where I felt like it was setting up like maybe a slasher-type vibe, and it doesn't really go as hard on that route as I would have liked it to, okay? But again, in the movie's defense, it's not really that type of movie. But if you're looking for what the fuck scenes, yeah, that movie definitely has that, okay? Maybe even a little sexual in nature, all right? That's all I'm gonna say. I was sort of thinking of the bear scene from The Shining. Also, this movie is a Halloween-based movie, and you'll see that in the last act when you're gonna see the Halloween decorations and the pumpkins, and there are Halloween masks in this movie. You almost forget that it is like a Halloween-based type movie, you know, because there's just not that much in the way of like Halloween set decoration for most of the movie. So I guess that's a little gripe about the movie as well, but overall, I still had a really good time with this movie. It definitely kept me guessing. It breezes right by at like 90 minutes. And I highly recommend it. It is in theaters now, I believe, this weekend. So another win for Erik Bloomquist as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I'm giving this a high humdrum. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of self-help when you get a chance to see it. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Be sure to subscribe to my second channel, Drumdums Xtra, if you want like podcast clips, horror videos that are kind of off the beaten path. You'll see when you get over there. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, Review for Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on my social, support me on Patreon, become a channel member, buy me coffee. And you guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day, and Drumdum out.